Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Kiara Robinson, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Hey, Paul. It's great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, you and I both served in the military. You're a proud former Marine. We have to get that straight. You're not retired or you're not a has-been. You're just a former Marine, right?
Right. Better.
Very cool. I guess this is the first time I've had somebody on the podcast that I connected to through Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty unique way to network there.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't talk a whole lot for the first 45, 50 years of life. The last few years, I can't stop talking to people. It's funny.
Love it.
It is what it is. All right, what'd you do in the Marine Corps?
So I was an intelligence Marine, or I started out as an intelligence Marine, but throughout my entire career, I wore so many different hats. You know, you pretty much, the way I moved throughout my military career, I was just at the needs of the Marine Corps is what came. So I wore many hats. I was an ammo tech. I was a logistics Marine. I was a supply Marine. Linguistics Marine is how I started out. And I was actually on my way into human intel before I got out.
So you were going to do human, which is I think the most fun intel, but I've never been an intel person.
Yeah, honestly, it was such a cool opportunity. Okay, so and you can't just go into human intel. They have to test you. You know, you have to do their testing, then you have to go to school. I remember, and I'm sure I can talk about this, is just how, just what they make you do. So they made me do a geography test. They made me write a paper on a conflict they had going on in the Middle East, and they graded me on that. It was something you'd expect, I guess, out of like an intelligence Marine. It was very analytical. They wanted to see, I guess, what my intelligence level is, or whether I could read a paper or make a presentation, things like that. I did have to answer a few questions. Like, remember they had me in a room and they were asking me questions like, okay, like say your best friend, if we sent you on a mission and we sent your best friend on a mission as well, and your best friend died during that mission, would you continue on to complete the objective? Would you stop? Like, how would you handle that? And things like that, just really gauging my emotional intelligence as well, and whether I could continue on with some sort of trauma or something like that. It was very much that. And it was a very interesting experience and very different from what I had experience from, the general population of the Marine Corps. I ultimately did not. Now, I did pass their test. They did give me a letter. At the end of it, they give you a letter saying whether or not you passed and they want you or not. And I got that letter. But for me, I think I was like 2 or 3 years into my military career, and I had a 5-year contract. Because my schooling for the intelligence field that I was in, it was so long. It was like a year. So they wanted 5 years out of me. They wanted 5 more years added onto my contract if I were to become a human intel Marine. And my thinking was like these first couple years, like my first contract is already a little difficult. So I don't know if I can add on another 5 years, but at the time I was told that I was like kind of, not in these words, like cream of the crop, because going in, I had a TS-SCI clearance. It's like the highest clearance you can get.
It's the highest clearance you get, and you get a bunch of letters after that, depending on your specialty.
Yeah. Right. So since I already had that going in and I wasn't just, lateral moving from just some random MOS, it made me a pretty good candidate But again, it was those years, those extra years that I just could not bring myself to tack on to my contract. So ended up just continuing on.
Yeah, it's funny. My sense is, and I didn't do 20 years active. I did 23 in the reserve component. I think things get easier as you go through your time, and they also become more boring. You end up just doing a lot of administration and dealing with the headaches that people management or leading people brings, because it's not all glory. There's a lot of boring stuff as you rise through the ranks. But yeah, no regrets, right? You made your decision and you didn't go in the human, but you still were a Marine for 5 years, right?
5.5 years. Yeah, I did that whole thing. And it was a roller coaster for me. It made me learn more about myself. Of course, like I went in thinking I wanted to be, Indiana Jones, and even Indiana Jonesette or whatever, just to get these adventures. I don't know if like when you went in, they had these cards or something that says you'll get friendships, you'll get adventure, you'll get this to help you. I don't know, to help you decide. But that really got me that adventure. That sense of adventure really got me. And of course, I was 19 when I joined, so I didn't do a lot of research on what it was going to really be like to be a United States Marine. But yeah.
Yeah, the Army took a much simpler approach. They just did be all you can be, and here's some money for college.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It helps. That definitely helps. College was a big motivator for me, definitely towards the end as well.
All right, we're going to come back to your experience in the Marines because it's what we just talked about doesn't do your service justice. So we will come back to it. But I ask most people this question: where are you from?
So I was born in Long Beach, California, and from then I've moved to a bunch of places: Phoenix, Arizona, Eugene, Oregon, North and South Carolina. I'm a traveler, so I'm all around.
Did you stay in Long Beach through high school, or was the family moving around?
No, actually, I went to high school in Phoenix, Arizona. I think we moved from California when I was about 12. I believe from 12 to 19, I was in Phoenix, and that's where I joined the Marine Corps.
What kind of things were you up to as a kid when you weren't in school and you weren't doing what your parents were telling you to do? What were you finding yourself doing?
I was exploring a lot of what my body could do. As a kid, I did a lot of sports. My mom had her children in anything we could be in, and she really nurtured our interests. Whatever I was interested in, she really led us to put our heart into it. So softball, track I was really, really good at. It wasn't stimulating to me as a sport, but I remember like during our time in Phoenix, us winning, or my school winning like medals or like the regional track championship and everything. We were really good. But from then I went on to softball, and I also experienced a bit of our school's we call it a step team. And that is like, if you are familiar with HBCUs and the fraternities and sororities, they have these like dances.
I've been to step shows. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. So we were sponsored by ASU Step Team, our high school. So they would come out and they would, give us some moves, and we'd go out and compete in all of these shows and everything. And we'd also, there were also some rappers, some local talent, and I think a pretty big rapper. Meek Mill is his name, I believe. We did a concert for him, or not a concert for him. We were like his backup dancers at one of his concerts, which was a pretty cool experience as well.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I went to my first step show, I think in 1988. I was a freshman in college, and one of my hallmates was trying to pledge through Alpha, and I watched that poor guy. Man, they are rough to pledges, and he invited us to a couple of step shows. One was kind of midpoint of him being a pledge, and then there was this culminating step show. But they were very, very entertaining. You had this overwhelming sense of pride, and I wasn't trying to become an alpha, even though there was a white guy in that pledge class. It was just a very uplifting and heartfelt sort of experience. I went to 2 of them. I didn't go to like 100 of them. My guess is a lot of them are like that.
Yeah. They do want, like, they do give you a little bit of hazing when you pledge, but all in all, like they do build community. They do go out when after you make it in. Of course, they do really good things for the community. So.
Well,
Yeah.
they're service oriented, right? Versus party oriented, like other fraternities.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Softball was stimulating, it sounds like, versus track.
So softball, I had never played softball before, and going into it, a lot of the girls were a lot like more experienced than I was, and I was just happy to be doing something other than running around in a circle. That's just what track felt like to me. Just continuous.
Taking a lot of left-hand turns, yeah.
So many laps, and I needed something else that was stimulating, and I didn't. I wanted to do soccer, but I don't know. In that school, it was just a lot of African Americans and the Latin community, and that just seemed like a Latinx sport. There weren't a lot of African Americans on the soccer team, so I didn't want to go and then be like the only person. Now we all got along. There was no like bad racial conflicts. I just wanted some other representation there than myself. So I chose softball because they had a lot more Black people on the squad. So that was okay. It was just an interesting new sport for me. I'm not gonna say that I was good at it. I brought speed to it. That was my strength. I was very fast. They did put me in the outfield, but they put me in like left center, just all of outfield. But wherever the ball would go most. Because they knew I was fast and I could get to it. Now, anything outside of that, I'm not going to claim I was good at it. But I definitely knew what my strength was on the field.
I've recently learned a lot about like high school level softball, and it's a very fast sport, especially relative to baseball. Everything's closer together. There seems to be more action, and there's a lot of people just trying to smack the ball in play and then get to first base in a hurry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh my goodness. I remember this one game where I was the designated hitter, and that was like a lot of pressure for me. It was it was really cool to experience though. Did you play baseball in school?
I did.
So you know how you'll have your coach on the side making signs of what they want you to do next? So yep. So I hadn't really been paying attention to like him teaching the signs beforehand. So it was very much me trying to figure out what he's trying to say and trying to like mouth to him. Is that like is that what you want me to do? Like it was a really fun time. We actually won that game too. So it was a pretty good experience overall. I was really happy to be in softball.
Did you do track all the way through high school, or did you stop doing that?
Oh no, I stopped doing that like freshman year of high school. It just wasn't for me like immediately, and I did it all through middle school, and though we were good, and I'm not gonna lie, I do like praise, and we got like all our medals and everything. I just could not keep it. It just was not interesting to me. I love to watch it. I love to watch, people do the hurdles, but I was just all sprinting, and that's over in a second, which I'm happy for. But like, it is just, this one is exciting. It wasn't exciting.
Were you running the 100 and 200, or were you more 200, 400?
So I ran them all. We ran all the relays. My sister and I, we were called like the sister team. We were really, we were the best sprinters or the best female sprinters on our team. And we ran all of the relays, the 100, 200. The 400, that was my cap for distance at the time. I was like, once we got to 400 and doing those relays, the 4x4, that I was done. That was my cap. Don't make me run any further than that. Like I was just an all-around sprinter the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, I've had track people tell me that at the elite level, if you're awesome, I think you and I were talking about this when we met. If you were Usain Bolt and you were dominating the 100, you weren't going to compete at the elite level with the 400 meter folks. And a lot of people will say the 400 meter, whether it's 4x4 relay or just straight up 400, it's the hardest race. A lot of people would argue.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like for me, it was either put me first or put me last. Do the anchor or the first leg or the anchor. Don't put me anywhere in the middle. Let me finish so I know like what's at stake. So put me as the anchor so I know like what I need to do immediately, or let me set the pace so you guys can figure it out. Those are my two favorite positions when running any relay, was the first and the last.
Yeah, I think if you're the coach, you want your two fastest to be first or last. Is that fair?
They had it right then. Yeah, I would say so. That makes sense. Yeah, thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want the lead at the beginning to kind of be soul crushing to half the teams running. And then you definitely want somebody fast at the end in case you need all that speed.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I remember, okay, one more military thing, because this came up. We were like in boot camp and we had to run a relay with our rifles, and we were behind, but like I had shown in boot camp that I was fast, but I wasn't not gonna lie, I was not a popular Marine or a popular recruit in boot camp. And
well, hold on, why is that?
Why was that? Well, I had like a certain, they have to like break you down in boot camp. They have to build you up from something so that you can be a new person, right? A new Marine. You want to come out of boot camp, or at least I think this was the ideology behind it. You want to come out of boot camp, like this rebuilt person, a stronger person, like a better person. That's what that's what they tell you. In a lot of cases, yeah, that's what it is. I just already had an identity. I was very strong-willed, I'll say. And 19, I was still a little rebellious, like I knew what I could bring. And it was all about like as a what is the opposite of officer? Well, enlisted. As an enlisted person, you're in a subordinate position, and like in boot camp, when they break you down, they're kind of lowering your self-worth, and I just was fighting against that. Like I was like, I know what I'm worth, and I know what I can do. Now, I think I might have read the situation wrong in boot camp about what they were trying to do, because to me it seemed like oppressive, but that's not the entire, like that's not what they're trying to do, right? It's just what it is, how it comes off. Just
like there's some nuance here, right?
Yeah.
You've got E6s and E7s that are trying to do their best to effectively what the Marine Corps does, my understanding, and the Army and the other services attempt to do this as well, is empty out the old jar, the one that came to day one of boot camp, and then once it's empty, fill up the jar, hence the term jar head, fill up the jar with the Marine Corps value set in the Marine Corps way. I mean, that's the idea. It comes across as not so great, depending on your background and the background of the people that are leading you through basic.
Exactly. And you get a ton of different people in boot camp, just from all over the country. They come in and you just are dealing with a bunch of different backgrounds. Right. So it was just that my cultural background was just a little different. So I had I was not adapting as well, like I was on paper, like as far as doing everything, I could shoot, I could run, I could swim, I could do whatever you asked me to do physically. I was like the perfect, not to ring my own bell. Like physically, boom. But as far as the attitude, it was very much I know who I am, or I had my own identity, and it was not fitting with the Marine Corps thing. So it came off not great. So I wasn't very popular with my drill instructors, right? But my platoon, like this is going back to so we were having some sort of field day, and we were doing a relay race against another platoon, right? So I'm staying out of it. You guys do what you want to do, but they had seen me, like they're seeing me like running and doing my thing. Like physically, I'm good. So my drill instructor, my head drill instructor, she'd ask everybody, okay, who's fast? Who wants to run for us? Who wants to represent us? Now, like this is where my mindset is not mixing with them. I'm like, you guys do what you want to do. Like you're gonna win or you're gonna lose without me. You guys don't like me anyway. So if you want me to do it, you're gonna have to like ask me. It was very me, self-centered, right?
It's a 19-year-old ego. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. It's my 19-year-old ego, right? So my platoon mates, they all pick the fastest people or who they think is the fastest. And they start running, but they're picking them as the race is going. So they're like, okay, who's next? Who's next? Who's next? So like the two like good, like ready to go Marines, they volunteer. They're like, yeah, I'm going to represent, I'm going to bring it home for us. They fall behind. They're so far behind. And then it's the third leg, and this woman, she wasn't very fast either. So they all look at me, and I'm like, oh.
They knew you were fast. Did they know?
Knew I was fast, yeah. And it was like another 19-year-old ego, me, like, my self-worth had like taken like some batterings here. So I was like, no, I'm gonna prove myself. That this is where I'm gonna be the best Marine you'll see, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So it's my turn. And I've never, like, running with a rifle is not the same as running with a baton. I don't know how much the rifles weighed. Do you remember how much the rifles weighed?
I don't know, 6 or 7 pounds, but it's more the length of being awkward trying to run. Right?
Yes. So everyone's running like cross body, because that's what they're seeing. Like I know how to run. I know what my body needs to do to balance itself to run like at optimum speed. But everyone's running cross body, and that's like gaining all this wind. It's not helpful. So by the time it's my turn, they choose me. I'm like, okay, here I go. By the time it's my turn to actually start running, the girl is like, they had gotten so much of a lead. It was ridiculous. So by the time I start running, the girl was like almost halfway to the end point. So I start running. Now, again, I'm trying to, be like everyone else, trying to fit and trying to prove myself. So I'm running crossbody too. And I'm just like, no, that's not working. I have to one arm this rifle and swing it like my life dependent. So I'm sprinting and I'm gaining on this girl. Like it was such like, I'd say it was one of those moments in boot camp that like I probably like it really fed my ego at the time, but it was also just another if I look at it as just another accomplishment that I'm really like happy about. Like I passed that girl, but she was so far ahead, and it was like by this much. It was by this much.
How much was each leg? How far did you have to run? How far did you run?
That was a 200. They did it like a 4x2, but the track was like a longer. It was like, and it was in a weird shape. It wasn't an oval track. I think they had modified the track to fit like the Marine Corps standards of what the 3 mile for our PFT would be for our physical fitness test. So they modified it some way. So it was extra long to me. So, but I think it was about 200 meters, maybe a little longer. But yeah, like that girl was gone, but it felt so good to like pass that. And then, I kind of got like a little bit of like outside validation that I needed at the time, from that. And I was even asked if I wanted to, like, if I ever thought about running for Team USA or something.
Oh, wow.
After that. Yeah. So it really made me feel good. Of course, like I mentioned before, I am not interested in running track. Like, it's just not what it is not for me. But yeah, I'm fast.
We all have these ironies in life. You're really, really good at something, but you don't enjoy it. So yeah, why would you do it?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, well, what else is there now? Not find the next best thing,
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you end up in the Marine Corps?
So when we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, we actually moved away from California because, we didn't, not say we lived in like a bad neighborhood or anything, but my mom didn't see it as like the best place for us to be. And growing up in LA County or in Long Beach specifically. And she saw more opportunity for us in Phoenix. But when we got to Phoenix, for me, how I felt about it, it was just boring. Like, and I read a lot of books. I was really into just seeing what was out there, exploring, and actually made like my first vision board before I went to, like, I don't know, when I was in high school sometime. And it had a lot of like adventurous pictures on it of, rock climbing, surfing, skateboarding, snowboarding, a lot of things that I do today. And just exploring America and just other parts of the world. And I carried that with me, like in my head of like who I wanted to be. And I wasn't interested in going to school right out of high school because I wanted to experience. I was tired of learning about stuff. I wanted that to be my learning. And we had Marines come to our high school. They would come to our high school and they'd have the pull-up bars. I don't know if you've ever seen how they recruit, but they come to high schools, they have these pull-up bars and they're like, yeah, you can, how many pull-ups that can you do? They'll give you like a coin or something. And the Marines, we promote ourselves as like the best of the best. So that the tip of the spear, that like, who doesn't want that? What 19-year-old, what ego doesn't want to be fed that way? And I saw that as a path to my adventures, to get out there and explore the world, and to do it, I guess, on the government's dime, and to meet as many people as I could before, it was my time to branch off from the military and go live an even more adventurous life, but, on my time. So it was a very, very much adventure minded.
Are you the only member of your family that served in the military?
No, my father was in the Navy. He is a computer guy, computer geek. He actually got me into the intel field when, again, I won't claim that I was a very self-aware 19-year-old, because I was just going to go into the Marine Corps just to be a Marine, just to see what that was. And he stopped me. He was like, okay, you need to think about this. And actually, he kind of didn't give me a choice. He was like, you're smart. You need to go into intelligence and you need to tell them that. And he actually wrote an email to my recruiter saying intelligence is what she wants. And I'm actually pretty grateful for him because I've seen the Marine Corps and I've seen some not so glamorous MOSs. And to go open contract, it's probable that I would have gotten one needs
of the Marine Corps, right? There, if you go up,
the needs of the Marine Corps,
wherever they need you, yeah.
The needs of the Marine Corps, yes. I'm really happy that my father looked out for me, though, in talking to my recruiter, so that I can get something, or that I could potentially have something to do when I got out. Because at some point, no matter if you stay in 20 years, if you stay in more, you're gonna have to take off the uniform at some point. So you need to have a plan of what you're gonna do.
Absolutely. All right. So, by the time you joined the Marine Corps, had you done any travel as a family, or was it just, hey, I know Long Beach, I know LA County, and I know Phoenix, and now I'm in the Marine Corps?
No, I actually hadn't. We've gone around the United States. I think the furthest we went was Michigan. But being in the Marine Corps, that's where I first went out of the country. My first duty station not my first duty station. Well, my first main duty station that wasn't like a training area was Japan, Okinawa, Japan. And that was an amazing experience to be able to experience that culture. I'd love to experience it more as a civilian, but to experience that, like living there, and it was amazing. And I'll forever be grateful to have had that happen.
When you say amazing, what are the first 2 or 3 things that pop in your head about Okinawa?
Well, being a person of African descent in Asia, it feels like, because I've been to a few Asian countries at this point, being that, and looking how I do, to them, it's very exotic. So they haven't seen a lot of people who look like me, a lot of dark-skinned Black people or Black people, period. So I got a lot of people coming up to me about shaking my hand, wanting to shake my hand, wanting to take pictures. And that wasn't just in Japan. That's Thailand. It was Taiwan.
It's almost like they were treating you like a rare jewel, but in human form.
Yeah. And you know what? For me, like a lot of people, some people may be uncomfortable with that, but with me, I saw that as it being genuine curiosity and not ignorance. Like if it happened here, it would be weird. But if it happened,
you wouldn't know what to make of it if it happened.
I'm like, where are you from? How have you lived in America? But in Asia, I was very open to meeting new people and experiencing new cultures. So I was very happy to meet these people and just, experience them as well,
Yeah. How would you describe the culture there?
So Okinawa is very Americanized. Have you ever been?
I've been to one of the airports in Japan. That's about it.
Yeah, so Okinawa, because of the base there, of the huge military base there, it's very Americanized. I believe they even have this place, if I remember correctly what it's called like Little America or something, but they just have a lot of overpriced American goods. I remember this shirt that was like $60 that I bought off Amazon for like 10. I was like, why is this so much money? But I guess it was like to have like American comforts or to give American comforts to the Americans. But the military, they have a very tense relationship with the locals there. Because, our military bases are loud, military airplanes are loud, and they're flying over people's homes. And Okinawa is not you can drive the length of Okinawa in a day. Like it's not a huge island, but the closer you were to base, the less like awkward it was in interactions, because they were a little more used to seeing, Americans. But the further you got out, like further north, where we didn't have too many bases, it was more rural, and an older population as well. It was just like you are in a foreign country. It was very clean though. That's what I liked. Another thing, it was very, very clean. And the dollar is similar in value as the yen a bit, so that also helped. But I think the people there were my favorite.
Yeah, I imagine if you're an older Japanese man or woman, you're like, yeah, we don't need all this noise here from the Americans. They're not Japanese. Why can't they just go back to America? Would probably be fairly common, especially to the northern agricultural parts of Japan or the island.
Yeah. And I remember while we were there, we did have a few international incidents as well, like with some Marines or some other service members and the local population. It was like not a good look. So I remember like us getting like the base getting into like a lot of trouble and having to be like a dry base, meaning you can't drink at all. Like there's no drinking, or you don't have liberty, or you can't go off base for any reason unless you live off base. But yeah, you definitely had a tense relationship between, a lot of protests too. I remember transferring ammo. Again, I told you I did a lot, many jobs, and he's in the Marine Corps. I remember transferring ammo and being stuck like on a street because there were protesters would get in front of these 6-ton trucks and just a group of people just stay there and with their signs. We don't know what they're I didn't know what they're saying. I didn't study a lot of Japanese when I was there. I kind of just pointed at things that I wanted and, a lot of hand gestures, but you can tell that they weren't happy. There's a portion of the Japanese population there that are not happy with the military presence. And that's just, how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think about if the opposite was true, the Japanese had a military base in your backyard, you wouldn't be very happy about it either.
Oh yeah. And I try to explain that to people like a lot of the time, like just put yourself in the shoes of the other person for a bit. But yeah, that's definitely, I don't think we have any foreign bases on American soil, to my knowledge. We do have a lot of joint operations.
Yeah, we have embassies is probably the closest thing, and that's meant to be diplomatic and the spirit of cooperation and all that.
Exactly.
Let's go back to, I know you left Long Beach when you were 12, but and you tell me where I'm wrong here. And I think the second thing I'm going to say is why your mom was like, it's time to get out of here. The first thing is Snoop Dogg, I think, is the most famous person from Long Beach. Is that right?
Yeah.
Got to be. I can't think of anybody even close.
There are rumors that we're related. There are rumors.
Well, I would love those rumors to be fact, and then you could hook me up with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, I would also love those rumors to be fact. I'll fact check them after this.
That'd be, well, do you believe the rumors?
I think that people in my family knew people in his family just because we all lived on the east side of Long Beach, where Snoop is from, and
Right.
A lot of my family went to the same high school and grew up around him and his family. It's more of that. That's what I believe. I think it was just a bunch of close knit friends and people.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I just don't want to get my hopes up if he's my cousin or something.
Well, not that we need to talk about Snoop Dogg for the next 20 minutes, but Snoop Dogg has led an incredible life. He warms my heart every time I see him. He seems like a really good dude. The second thing I was going to say is, I mean, for an East Coast guy, Long Beach and LA County in particular, and Los Angeles, the city, there's gang violence there. I don't know how prevalent it was when you were a kid, but when I was growing up, we definitely knew about how violent LA in general could be.
Yeah, so if you ask my mom, she'll claim that we're really, really sheltered, and she kept us from a lot of stuff. We did see some things, and we did have some family members that were a part of these gangs. I never was extremely close. Again, like I told you, I was always like in my head or in the books or really trying to develop myself, and just really escaping through like my studies and like wanting to be an explorer and things like that. So it doesn't really go with the gang culture. So I don't think that I would have like fit in very well there anyway. Plus I always wanted to do my own thing. I would never, and this was a problem maybe in the Marine Corps too, like joining a group of people with the same ideology. It just never really fit. Like I really needed my own individuality throughout my young adult years. So yeah, I never was I was never very active in that scene, but we did have that around, and that is one of the reasons why she did move us from that area.
Yeah, it makes sense. And look, I'm saying this as a guy who grew up in the Richmond metro area, and we've been in the top 5 for murders per capita since I was a kid. Yeah, it's there are lots of not so safe places all across our country.
Right.
But every time I hear Long Beach, and so when you told me you were from Long Beach, I'm like, oh, Snoop. And now you're telling me that you might be related.
Yeah.
All right. So you traveled, it sounds like you traveled a little bit as a family, or maybe a lot more than a little bit. You made it out to Michigan, and I imagine you stopped at all kinds of other places on trips. Mm-hmm. But outside the country, Japan's an interesting first visit outside the country. it's very different than how you grew up, right?
Oh man. Yeah. Well, being like exotic all of a sudden, like that was very interesting. And also a little flattering. I don't know. It was like it was like feeling like, oh, me? You want what? You want a picture with me? Oh, how should I pose? It was very like new for me. And a lot of people like definitely there are some negatives to that, and it can be uncomfortable. But it was just I don't know. It was a bit welcoming sometimes.
It's
Most of the
awkward.
time, yeah, it's awkward. It can be welcoming. It can be an okay thing. It's just new, I would say. And I was just curious to know more. You know, but it was definitely a culture shock, between America and like you have to keep all of your trash in your pockets. That was one thing I remember. Like they don't have trash bins like along the street, like all now, and you see how much you consume with having to keep all of your trash in your pockets and everything. And that was a pretty big thing for me. And there are also some places that didn't allow Americans, like they'll hold up this sign, this X sign with their arms, if they didn't want Americans inside of their establishments. Which at the time, yeah, it made sense because again, the international incidents and all these, some people just weren't comfortable with the military in their backyard, and that was fine. You just find another place. Most of the time, yeah, you just find another place.
So they weren't being racist. They were trying to ward off trouble for their business, it sounds like.
Yeah, at least I didn't take it as racism. And a lot of time, we were out. We had to have battle buddies, and that's just going out with another person if you were a junior Marine. So like I had a best friend that I'm actually still good friends with today. And he's Native American, so I don't see them being, and he actually looks like he has some, like his phenotype it looks a bit Asian, so people actually thought that he was Japanese at some places, at some points. But him like being with me kind of confirmed he was in the military or associated with me in some place. So them doing it to both of us did not make me think they were racist anyway. It's just that it was an American thing.
Yeah, makes sense. More of a national military thing. And I
Yeah.
can imagine a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old Marines running around Okinawa could be problematic at times.
Oh yeah, yeah. Correct.
So where else did you travel internationally while you were in the Marines?
So one of my exercises that we did was in the Philippines, and I'll never forget it. It was so many. It was so hot. It was so humid. It was the weather was just unlike I'd ever experienced before. And it was just so intense. It was where I got my first like international sickness, and I thought it would just be over for me. We were mostly in like the field for this. I remember when we were going home, we went to Manila, and we got to explore Manila a bit. I didn't get to, I was sick at this point, but we definitely got a little bit of liberty to go and check it out. And this was we went there during the Manny Pacquiao, what's that guy's name? Floyd Mayweather fight.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah, that was yeah, we were in the Philippines for that. So, they were going crazy for that, the Filipino population. And we were like super excited too. And we actually got to watch it in some sort of area. They actually like bussed us to a place so we can watch it once the exercise was over. That was like one of the greatest experiences of my life to get to watch that in the Philippines.
Well, he's a national hero for the Filipinos, right?
I heard he was like more than just a boxer to them.
Well, he's a businessman. He was a politician there, and I can see. I mean, he had an incredible boxing career. I mean, he fought too long. He probably should have given the gloves up maybe a few years before he did. But man, Manny Pacquiao in his prime was amazing. Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
You were there for that fight. That's really.
Oh
cool.
yeah. That was super cool. But yeah, that was one of my excursions outside. I think that was also from Japan too. Like I went from Japan to the Philippines. We actually flew to the Philippines. And I remember flying on that helicopter. It was so cold and so uncomfortable. I was like, how do pilots do this? How are you just in the air like this for so long? You didn't warn us. You didn't like tell us to wear any extra layers. We finally landed in the Philippines. It was so warm. I was like, how is the difference? It was just such a shock. Everything that I experienced in the military was a bit of a shock at first. But good things mostly.
My experience with pilots is they were laughing hysterically with how underdressed you guys were.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they were, because they didn't give us any heads up, and we just had to bear it. It felt like forever that we were in that plane, in that helicopter. Oof.
I mean, Japan and Philippines are not that far apart, but if you're taking a helicopter, they're going to feel really far apart.
Oh yeah, and we didn't take a helicopter back either. We were on, I don't know why we just didn't do this going there, but we were on like this, it looked like a cruise ship ish. Like they put us on a ship and shipped us back to Japan. It was it was way better than the hell. I don't even know why we did that. Yeah, but the ship was so much better.
So sometimes what happens in the military doesn't make sense, and you just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, man. I totally agree with that. We weren't even supposed to be there for as long as we were. Like the planning for that exercise was just off. And I learned, I think it was during that exercise where I was like, you know what? I just have to let things be. Like I can't control anything at my rank other than like myself and what's going on in my area. I can't control when we leave. I remember being so ready to go, being so hot. And I was on duty a lot of the time there. And I remember just being on duty for like the first the last 12 hours of the day, just overnight, and it just being like just hell, just at night. Just Arizona and the Philippines are like rivals. I feel like for heat.
Yeah, except that the Philippines, to your earlier point, they have a lot of humidity there where Phoenix doesn't have nearly as much.
Yeah, the dry heat, Phoenix, and just it's like an oven.
That's wild. All right, so how long have you been out of the Marines?
So I got out in 2018. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 6 years.
Yeah. So 6 years, what have you been doing in those 6 years?
So, oh man, it's just kind of reconnecting to myself. What I experienced in the Marine Corps really shaped me as an individual. That 5.5 years I was in, I had to spend the next 5 years relearning how to, be just me and how to survive out of this. Because the military, they take care of you. They give you a place to, they feed you, they give you a place to stay. You don't really have to worry about bills. It's not like being a civilian, and people say being in the military is hard. I think being a civilian and trying to make your way is nothing to scoff at, like at all. So since then, like I spent like the first half of my 20s in the Marine Corps, and the second half like just throwing things at the wall, just following my interests, and discovering what I can do and who I can be, and really finding success in the thing that kind of didn't work in the military works in the civilian world, and it's that deeper, that inner meaning, that really trusting myself and my abilities, just following that and seeing where that gets me, and trying everything.
And so you're never going to have a long-term destination. You're always going to be exploring is the sense I get in talking to you.
I am. Yes, you nailed it. And I love that. That sounds exciting to me. That sounds like why doesn't everybody want to do that? Like so like that's the life right there. Like you won at that point. Like you just you're just discovering. It's just exciting. That's exciting to me. That's the adventure that I was looking for in the Marine Corps.
Discovering and learning. All right, so I'm really excited to talk about this, and I forget the name of the route. You told me, and I forgot.
Yeah.
You're gonna, like, short story is you're gonna take a trip solo from some place in Alaska to the tip of South America or Argentina, the southernmost part of that continent and that country.
Yeah.
So where do you start in Alaska? Is it like pretty far north in Alaska?
No, you don't have to. I don't plan to. I plan to start in Homer, Alaska. I have I have a sweater that says Alaska on it that I tell whenever anybody asks me, because people get really excited when they see this sweater. I don't know why. They're like, "Oh my God, are you from Alaska?" And I've just started saying, "Yes, I am from Alaska." And I tell them that I'm from this place in Alaska. So I'm starting there. It's called Homer, Alaska. It's a small fishing city. I'm starting there, and I'm driving all the way down to and it's called the Pan American Highway.
Thank you.
That's what the highway's called. Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it's Trans or Pan. Yeah.
What's that?
I couldn't remember if it's Trans American Highway or Pan American Highway.
Oh yeah, Trans American. No, it's Pan American Highway. And we're going. They're ending. I forget what the city in Argentina is called. But I remember you telling me that you can go from Argentina to the Arctic.
Yeah, the South Pole.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like I might even. That was very interesting to me, and I actually did a little research on that, on how I can get there. And I'm like, why stop? You know, I don't.
Our conversation led to that.
Yes, that's kind of okay. So I don't have like, I just do things. I don't like plan the way it would probably be beneficial for me to plan for things. So my plans usually go from, I want to do this and I want it to end up like this, you know, and everything in between is flexible. So that's how my plans usually work out. That's how I planned my backpacking through Peru. That's how I'm planning this trip. I don't have a time limit for it. And that is, you know, also something I can contribute to, you know, my time in the Marine Corps. Like, it's given me that freedom to explore this way, to not have a time limit, and to just keep doing this and to live like this.
What vehicle are you taking?
So I, a few years ago, maybe 2 years back, I bought a Chevy Astro, a 96 Chevy Astro, a complete lemon. And over these years, I've been fixing it up myself and building it out so that I can drive that way and be comfortable and record all of my experiences along the way.
So you're going to take a almost 30-year-old vehicle.
Yeah.
And you've taught yourself how to be a mechanic, it sounds like.
Okay, so I just feel like I'm a bit of a shade tree mechanic. You know, I can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I feel like with everything that I've learned, with all of human knowledge is on the internet, I probably don't need to be a mechanic for this, for how it is now. I feel like it's in a good space. Like I've driven it pretty far, and I'm not worried about it breaking down, you know, on the road. There's a bunch of mechanics in the world, definitely. And I feel like Chevy is a major car where I'm going. So somebody will be able to fix it if I can't. But it's been a pretty reliable vehicle. And that's not saying that I won't still, I don't know, take a few courses before I head out. Oh, sorry about that. There you go.
Oh, you're fine. All right. So you're starting at Homer. You're starting in a 96 Astro Chevy van, effectively. And you can sleep in that, right? I mean, that's 24/7 for you if you need it to be.
Yeah, I put like solar and everything in it. I've done all the electrical myself. And you're not saying it correctly. You got to say it with gusto. A 96 Chevy Astro. That's what I'm riding in. That's my whip. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
I didn't mean to say it in such an underwhelming way, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of your friends for, I mean, it has been for a long time, and it will be on this trip for sure. Mm-hmm. So are you going to like just do a lot of driving and get there, or are you going to stop and experience things and maybe take some odd jobs to pay for gas and food and that kind of thing?
Right there, you nailed it. Slow travel. That's what it's called. It's called slow travel. Definitely do some odd jobs, and if I can, I'll probably become a mechanic. See how things tie in? Yeah, see, I'll probably do a little bit of that. Definitely stop. I'm thinking Mexico City, probably other like cities outside of that. Just there's a big expat community in a lot of these places I'm going to. There are some big points that I do want to hit. Like I definitely want to stay in Arequipa, Peru. When I was backpacking through Peru, I stayed in Arequipa for a few days, and it was absolutely gorgeous, breathtaking. They had a Spanish-speaking school that you can go to, and I thought maybe I'd stay there for a few months, pick up some Spanish. I'm going to be picking up Spanish anyway, because that's most of the countries that I'll be going through. And in my experience, that's the best way to pick up a language, is when you absolutely have to. Yeah, I think that slow travel is the best way to go, because this is how I'm also doing this, not just for, the experience of it, but also to document it for National Geographic. That's the overarching goal of this entire experience, is to be able to pitch this to them, so that they can either help document it, or just get a grant for a National Geographic Explorer and show the link between, solo women travelers, skateboarding, and just how that has gone throughout the global community now and where it is. And yeah, I feel like I have a gift for storytelling. So I think that they'll definitely sponsor this story.
When do you plan to leave or go to Homer?
So I am thinking that I will go probably leave in the winter, just because I want to knock that out. I want to knock just Canada. I know I want to knock Canada out, just the north out, because from that point on, it's just going to be warm, and I'll be crossing into the southern hemisphere, and it has different, the opposite seasons there. So I'll be traveling at a really good time, and it won't be a lot of tourism. So I'll be able to explore it on like the off seasons as well, depending on how fast I move,
And you don't plan to move at a high rate of speed. So, yeah, I'm actually a little jealous of what you're getting ready to do. I'm also a lover of geography. And so are you going to go through Vancouver at all? Or is that not?
Yeah.
With him.
Yeah. Once you get out of Washington, I remember I remember going to Bellingham, and you're able to see like Canada from there, in Bellingham, Washington, and northern Washington. But yeah, going through Vancouver, yeah, because you have to get through Canada. You have to get through Canada to get to Alaska. But I don't think I'm going to spend a ton of time traveling through like North America. Maybe Mexico, yeah, but not Canada and the States, just because
you've experienced a lot of that already.
Yeah, like I'm good on that. Plus, Vancouver has a similar culture to the American culture, just because it's so close, so I'm not.
Yeah,
exactly.
I do have to ask where you're going to cross the Rockies.
That's a good question. I do not know. I'll look into that. You have any suggestions?
No, I don't. I just know that I've driven out west, and some of those roads are elevated and not great protection. I'll just say that. Not great protection? Like you could, if you swerve off the road, you're not coming back.
Oh, I'm used to that. I'm so used to that at this point. I didn't tell you about my backpacking trip in Peru. There were 0 guardrails on these mountainous roads, and the driver was just speeding as fast and there's no like the mirrors that kind of jet out so you can see around the corner. None of that. They just honk the horn, and they're just like, they know it's fine. So I'm used to that, and I trust my own driving skills. If I'm driving, I feel like I'm definitely going to be as cautious as possible. Maybe going well below the speed limit. So I think I'll be fine.
So as a Black woman going into Mexico, are there
Mhm.
any cultural things that you're thinking about that you'll either enjoy or maybe not enjoy?
So from my experience, just being in Spanish speaking countries, um, I feel like it's the opposite of America. I feel like as a Black woman, I'm not gonna say like I'm celebrated, but I feel like it's definitely not the kind of, I don't want to say hostility.
You're always wondering what that
Yeah,
America would do. Yeah.
yeah. You're always wondering with America, but it's not that. It's in other countries, or at least in these Spanish speaking countries, because they also have, well, they also have like some like colonialism in their past as well. They also have a large like African population, or people like African diaspora. So I don't feel as I guess unwelcomed there. And they definitely have these groups, these Black expat groups that I can definitely latch onto and get some help from, just because they're everywhere. And I've definitely done research on those. I love seeing other people of the African diaspora traveling and saying, "Oh, this is like their experience abroad versus living in America," and connecting with those people is super easy nowadays, you know?
Yeah. No, that's yeah. I I feel like this is going to be challenging in a good way for you. And yeah, as long as you have connection to the internet, I guess you can get answers to almost anything.
Yeah. The internet, baby. It's the best.
Well, have you found that the internet? Are you expecting that the internet's going to be good throughout your trip?
So, yeah. I'm an optimist though. I always think things are gonna work out for me, and they typically do. I don't want to say I have a good track record or anything, but it's been pretty it's been pretty solid so far. And like I know what traveling abroad is like. I know how to get in touch with like phone companies, and also I've outfitted the camper van with like a Wi-Fi booster. So that should definitely help me pick up some sort of signal wherever I am.
All right. So we had talked about going from Central America into Colombia, right? Because that's I don't if you I imagine the Pan American Highway goes
Mhm.
through Colombia,
Yes.
right? And so when I was in Panama this many years ago, and you and I talked about this, I mean, there was just solid jungle. There was no way to drive through that. That's probably changed to some degree since I was in Panama. But you're actually not going to be taking roads the entire time, right?
No. So there's this, I forget what it's called. It's some sort of something gorge, and you can only cross it by boat. And I've done a bunch of research on this, and you can just, there's a bunch of expats, and they have these really use your resources when doing these things. Like really use the internet. Like it's a powerful tool just to connect with people who've already done what you're trying to achieve. And these people, they make these websites or these apps, um, so that people who are overlanding or traveling can meet up with uh, these like docks that ship your vehicle across, and they ship them in these containers, and you can, buddy up with another person who's also traveling, save yourself some money. Um, and those resources are out there, and I think it's gonna be a breeze, honestly. And this is just me being optimistic. I think it's gonna be really easy to connect with that, and have my trusty Astro shipped over um into Colombia, right? Or is it out of Colombia and into,
You'd be going out of Panama into Colombia.
right, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how would you travel when the car is boxed up?
So you travel on a different boat, and I'm really gonna have to it's really gonna force me to like watch my funds on this trip, because there definitely is a bit of a fee into shipping your own car. So I'm not worried about like anything getting stolen. I hear that's a big problem, that once you ship these cars, you should really lock up your stuff inside of a container and not just have it out on the dock of the boat. because a lot of people have reported having their things stolen. But I'm a minimalist, or I'm downsizing now to prepare for this trip into a minimalist, and I won't have like my computer and everything. That'll be on me. It'll be in my backpack. All of my very expensive things will be on me, and I'll just be traveling in a separate boat. But like, I don't have a ton of stuff of value. Like, my value for me during this trip is going to be like my experiences. So I'm not bringing a lot of high tech stuff, camera, computer to document, and it should be about it.
That's man, for your age, that's a lot of self-control that I think a lot of your peers couldn't do. I mean,
30?
I mean, look, I grew up, I spent the first, when I was your age, I had not experienced all this crazy. The internet maybe had just started becoming a thing when I was your age.
Gotcha.
And so, but now I have my phone's never very far, right?
Yeah.
And so you've known nothing but technology your entire life, right?
Yeah. Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah. Grew up on tech.
Yeah, but you're going to try to not use it as much as maybe you typically would, or certainly what your peer set would use.
Yeah. I think it will be a bit of a challenge, but again, like, this is really trying to get, this is a personal journey for me, to get back to myself. And I think a lot of people should take these kinds of times with themselves to really figure out who they actually, who they are and what they can handle. It's really a challenge for yourself to go off grid like that, and to not be like tapped in all the time, to really become best friends with yourself. I'm a really big fan of Matthew McConaughey, and I read his book Green Lights. And he takes these time when he's feeling like really overwhelmed, and he goes out into like the wilderness or whatever, or goes out by himself to connect back with himself and to get back to like who he really is. And I feel like when I'm on the road, because I've taken a lot of road trips at this point, I've traveled a lot solo at this point, and that's when I feel like my most authentic self, where I can give the best, where I can be my like my best version. So yeah, I really am excited for this journey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey, the reason I smiled when you said his name is he's this wonderful combination of laid back, he's funny,
Yeah.
he's talented in a lot of ways, and he just kind of has a view of the world that, hey, he's an optimist. It's all going to be okay. And he's the kind of guy I wouldn't mind hanging out with, have a couple of beers with, maybe.
Yeah, he gets it. Have you read his book?
I've not read his book.
Yeah, it's a good read. I feel like that guy, he's really figured out like the flow of his life. And I feel like a lot of us would do, our best would be our best if we could figure out our own.
All right, so I know you're slow traveling and you're not super worried about getting there by a certain date, but do you have a rough idea how long you think this trip's going to take?
I'm giving myself like a minimum a year. I'm not giving like a maximum, because I don't know. I might fall in love with Honduras. I plan to stop there to get my diving certificate. And I might, want to stay and practice diving for a few months. I might meet somebody. I might meet a few people that I might want to, build a community with for a while. I know that I'm not going to stay anywhere too long. I think 6 months is what I'd cap it at for any country. But I definitely want to stay long enough to get a feel for the culture there and for the people there, and to make lifelong connections in any way that I can.
You're not going to spend much time in Canada or U.S., but once you get to Mexico, what are the countries you're going to hit? Mexico, are you hitting everything in Central America?
I don't think it hits every country in Central America. Actually, I don't think it hits every country in Central or South America. I think it just goes like straight. You're the geography buff, though. You tell me what countries am I hitting?
You're going to hit Guatemala, I think.
Yeah.
You may hit Belize. You're definitely going to hit Honduras because, well, one, you just mentioned it, and I think that generally works as you're working your way to the south. You'll probably hit El Salvador, maybe. That's a smaller country. I think you have to hit Costa Rica because it has both Atlantic and Pacific Ocean coast.
Mm-hmm.
and you'll definitely hit Panama. And I may be missing Nicaragua. I don't know if you'll hit that. And then if you're starting in Colombia, you're probably going to stay westerly through South America. So you'll hit a fair number of countries.
See, and saying that, I see that you didn't mention Uruguay, like where I might, deviate from the path. It really depends on what is there, like how I'm feeling at the time. That's the freedom of this, that's the freedom that I think that I'm looking for in my time, and my resources, to be able to deviate from the plan of just staying on the Pan American Highway and, maybe exploring off of it to go to other countries, to see what's out there, to I don't know, be a travel, just kind of guide, like just a beacon for other people who may want to do this, who may want to get out of America. And I hate to sound all like woo woo about it, like be all extra spiritual about it, but I feel like that's kind of what this is leaning towards, just in getting the most out of my human experience.
Yeah, well, I'm too old to know what woo woo means, but I generally get the gist of it. Yeah, I don't know. The trip is whatever you want to make out of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're in a slow travel, and it sounds like you absolutely intend to do that, and it's amazing. I'm a little bit jealous. I also am very excited that when you do go to Antarctica, I'll be the guy that maybe sparked that for you.
Oh yeah. I'll give you a shout out on something. Yeah.
All right, last question. When you document this, and it sounds like you're going to take still photos and video, are you engaging people? Are you looking at landscape? Or what exactly are you trying to capture?
So I think I will mostly be looking at it through my lens, and through a lens of skateboarding, and just like a cultural lens. So I will be engaging with people, but it won't be about like, oh, this is how the people of Nicaragua live. Like not completely about that. It's more my personal experience, and how, being a Black woman, who skateboards, being a Black woman who explores, how I am experiencing it. It'll be through my lens, mostly.
What is it about? Sorry, I said last question, but you mentioned skateboarding again.
Oh, it's all good.
What is it about skateboarding?
So it was a time I think I just turned 25, and they call it like a quarter life crisis. Yeah, where it was a year after I got out of the Marine Corps when I was 24. It was a year after this, and I was like, okay, what am I doing? Okay, architecture. All right, cool. But there's no excitement to that. So I was just doing a lot. I started sandboarding. I went to Peru, did that thing without a plan. When I got back, I was like, okay, what's next? What's this new thing that I can pick up? And my brother, before I went back to Oregon to go back to school, my brother had his, like, he's into roller skating, but he also has a skateboard. He was like, hey, let's go to the park. And I just rode his skateboard to the park, and it was very like, it's like a deer, like a baby deer learning how to like walk, or like how to ride a skateboard. It was very awkward, but it was like, okay, like I suck at this, but this is fun and it's exhilarating. And I know that if it's a bit of like a danger component to it as well, because if you fall, you could bust your ass, like on sorry, I don't know if you can curse on your podcast.
You're
yeah fine. You could really like mess yourself up skateboarding, and it's really it just encompasses like one community is a bunch of cool people I've met while doing it, and just getting up and trying again, getting up and doing the thing again. Like, you might try this trick a million times and not get it, but at one point you're gonna, like, it's gonna click for you, and you're gonna land that kickflip, that ollie, that tray flip, whatever trick you're going for. And it's just like a metaphor for life for me. It's just continue on, because you don't have a choice but to keep trying, or you do quit, and I'm not I don't identify as, a quitter. I know you don't as well from the stories you've told me about yourself, but yeah, it just embodies that for me. And I just want to keep that going. And it's like play, I feel like play keeps you young. And I encourage more people to play. And that's just what skateboarding feels like for me.
Well, let's end it there. I'm so happy I met you, Kiara. I wish you nothing but happiness and safety on your travels. I know you're going to have an amazing time. I'll be in suburban America, being probably mostly bored, but it's all good. And look, you're telling a story. Your life story is a story that people should seriously think about, because you're doing things that will make you a better person and make those around you better too.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I hope that I can inspire some people to get out there and really explore themselves and explore what they can do and what the human potential is capable of.
Well said. I by the way, I'm going to stop the recording here a second, but I want to check in with you from time to time on this trip, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Do 5-10 minute recordings with you from time to time, whatever makes sense for you.
I would love that. Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks again, Kiara.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.